Good to see you.
Good to see you.
How are you?
I'm very fine.
First and foremost, how tall are you in terms of feet?
I'm 6'3". I hope it's very visible.
Right.
Yeah.
Very true. You know our Kenyan ladies, wanayo msemo ya sijui what dark tall sijui. I do believe they'll enjoy watching you.
Thank you.
Unapea host compare. Rosafi. Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Right. To begin with, who exactly is Michael and what does he do exactly in Edu thing?
Thank you. Michael is a coach working with IDU. I've been working with IDU for some time now, and my role in IDU is to ensure that we positively impact the learners and the teachers to ensure that they administer what we offer as IDU in the schools and ensure everything is working perfectly. So we just offer support as coaches.
Right. You know, Mwalimu was saying Edu, you were saying I do. Can you give us the right thing here?
The pronunciation might vary depending on how you pronounce it, but it's EIDU. EIDU. So how you pronounce it might vary. But
so it's EIDU.
Yes.
Edu, I do.
Edu, I do.
Whichever the case.
Yes.
Right. Is it an abbreviation or what?
No, it's not an abbreviation. It's in full. IDU. Yeah.
Right. How did you come about with the I do thing?
IDU came about because we realized that some learners from low-income backgrounds do not have access to quality education. So we try to supplement whatever it is that they lack from this education that they receive by enabling them to access our application. Our application offers them packages which include quality education content. And by quality education content, I mean content which improves their numeracy skills, the literacy skills as well. So we focus on ensuring that they get access to packages that are centered around key subjects that they focus on within their levels of education, because we focus on PP1, PP2, grade 1 and grade 2. So the key subjects in these levels of education are mathematics and languages. So we primarily focus on this to ensure that whatever it is that they access within our application enhances their levels of competencies and literacy and numeracy in general.
Right.
Yes.
That is what my guest, Mr. Michael Omondi, coach from the Edu team here, is talking about. Remember, if you believe they are doing something great in the society out there, you can share your comments. Any question pertaining, if you can want their services and you can also link to them, you can share your comment about that. If you are school which falls under the ABET category, you have had an experience with working with them, you can also share your experience and we can get to hear what you have to say concerning that as well. That number is below your screen. You can also move to our social media platforms. As usual, it's Boss TV Facebook. Like the page, share, and of course tell someone to tell someone that we are up in running and we are live, of course, to discuss this very vital and important issue as far as technology and education is concerned. To begin with now, coming back to you, Bwana Michael, yes. Where did you spot a gap and came about with this whole idea?
The gap came about because we realized that there are some schools which are from low-income background. So we realized that some of these schools don't have enough resources and enough facilities to enable the learners to access quality education. So our key gap is trying to fill in that gap of providing quality education. And how do we provide this? We provide this by enabling them to access an application which is the IDU app through smart devices that we give to the schools. And remember, giving these gadgets for free, and the learners can be able to access the applications through these gadgets. So we identify this gap and we want to ensure that the learners get access to quality education. And like I told you earlier, we do this by giving them educational packages which provide them with the basic numeracy improvement packages and also language improvement packages. So they access this through application. So that's what we try to primarily focus on.
Right.
Just improving their skills, yes.
Very true. Now, largely so, I do believe you've cut across the country. Right now you're in Mombasa. Yes. And speaking about being in Mombasa in itself and in cost itself, yes. How has the schools around here taken up this whole idea?
So far we're getting very, very positive reviews because some of the teachers are saying that once we introduced our IDU to the institutions, they've realized that now they're getting more learners attending the classes, because before then there were some cases of absenteeism, but right now they're getting more learners coming to school, and at the same time the curiosity levels and interest levels of the learners have doubled across the use of the IU device. And apart from that, the teachers are also finding an easy time teaching whatever it is that they teach within their classroom settings, because whatever IDO offers is something supplementary to whatever the teacher offers within the classroom.
Right.
And another thing that we've also realized is that the learners get immediate feedback once they get to use our gadgets, because compared to the conventional methods, teachers get to give the learners some assessment tests here and there, and then they pick up the assessments and they mark them, and then they return the results later. But now whatever it is that you offer, it's immediate feedback. So you as a learner, if you go wrong somewhere, you can be able to immediately get feedback and know that this is not correct, this one is correct. So as you move, you're able to build your skills. And at the same time, this saves the teacher time and the complication of trying to assess these learners. And at the same time, the teacher is able to track progress. So if, for example, if you are a slow learner, we can be able to help you out, because we know which areas that you're lagging behind, so we can tend to focus more, because I see immediate feedback as I continue to give this device to the learners. So it's something that we've realized has some positive impact in the lives of the learners. And just to add on that, we've also realized that they've really improved in terms of their communication skills. And,
right.
And then now, for example, before then you might find the learners they might find it hard to speak English. So because this is something that at times it focuses on the languages, so you find that they're starting to improve in terms of their communication skills. They talk more often in English, and they communicate even better than it was before. So we can positively see that there's some level of impact, and that's what we want to achieve at IDO.
Right, yeah. Very true. And speaking about the IDO system that, of course, you've brought about, and you've talked about the conventional way of teaching that we had previously, we now have the CBC. It's maybe not your line, but of course you have a little bit of a glimpse of whatever it's talking about. Did you put into consideration the CBC issue at all?
Definitely, we have to. Before we give out our gadgets, we have to consider: Are we building on whatever it is that's supposed to be worked on in terms of the education ministry has set out guidelines? Are we compliant with whatever it is that they offer? And to answer your question, yes, we are compliant. Whatever it is that we offer within our IDO app is KICD aligned.
Right.
So that means that it's CBC aligned, and it's something that it's within the curriculum that they're learning in their classroom settings. So there's no clash whatsoever. It's something that's in line with whatever it is that they want to achieve, and the learning outcomes are there, and something that you can be able to see being achieved through our application. And also this is something that the learners actually achieve, and the teachers can make a follow-up about. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody is watching and wondering, how do we go about this? Maybe with a good example of the numerical skills that you are trying to improve on to the learners, you can give us a picture on how you do it, maybe with that app.
So what we do is, first of all, we identify the schools that will need our intervention, and then once we identify the schools, obviously in collaboration with the education stakeholders. So once we identify the schools, we organize something we call our town hall. Within our town hall, we get to train the teachers who get to interact with the learners. So we train the teachers, give them the devices, the smart devices, give them our application, and teach them on how to use it. So once they go back to their schools, they can now apply whatever it is that we taught them within the town halls, now in their classroom settings. So for example, if I walk into my class, I know there's something that I need to set up, something we call an IDO corner. An IDO corner is where the learners get to interact with the IDO devices and the IDO app in general. So once I've set up the IDO corner, as a learner, I can be able to now interact with the device. Now within the device, there are different packages, just like I mentioned.
Right.
As a teacher, for example, if I want today to focus on mathematics, in particular maybe sorting and grouping within a certain substrand, I'll launch the IDO application, go to mathematics, specify on that particular substrand, maybe it's sorting and grouping, and then launch it. Once I launch it, I can be able to now call the learners to start interacting with it. For example, Learner A can now come to the idle corner and start interacting with the device. And within the package that we're offering, within the mathematics package, the sorting and grouping to be specific,
Right.
they get to access different content which is centered around that particular substance. So the learner gets to interact with it. As the learner progresses, the learner gets immediate feedback. So if there's something that's not right, the learner can know this is not correct. So before the learner moves on to the next set of the content which is offered within that particular substrate, he or she must complete this particular activity. So there's no way you can progress from one level to another within a particular substrate without having the competency of achieving whatever it is that the learning outcomes that is. If you haven't achieved the learning outcomes which is expected within this particular set, you cannot progress very on. So it ensures that before learners progress to the next level, there's some level of competence, some level of skill that they've acquired before they progress to the next level. So it's kind of like we ensure that before learners move, you've really grasped whatever it is that's offered within our ID package. So that's a way of ensuring that whatever it is that we offer is in line with the CBC curriculum and KCD packages.
Right, of course. From the theoretical part of view, maybe it sounds so technical and complex, but when it comes to the gadget itself, I do believe it's something that the kids themselves can handle.
It's like any daily phone, gadget device, smart device that you might have in your pocket. It's something very simple. We try to make it as simple as possible because we try to reduce the cost so that we can be able to give out more gadgets to multiple schools here and there. So we try to access, to give the device to just go for the basic device which is able to run application effectively so that the learners can be able to use it. And it's very simple. If you've come across a smart device, like the basic smartphone that you have, I think you're very well in terms of using the ID devices.
Right.
Because it's not any different. Like Mr. Lubambo mentioned earlier, we've partnered with Safaricom and many other service providers here and there to ensure that the devices that we offer, it's not complicated for the learner to use. It's supposed to be something simple, something that they can easily manipulate and interact with for that matter. So that's our, you don't want to complicate the use of the device so that it gets difficult for the learner to use. Yes.
Right. Now, shifting away from the learner now, let's look at how it should be handled and taken up with the teacher's side. How do you go about it now in terms of to the teachers now?
To the teachers, like I said earlier, we ensure that as we train them, we ensure that we cover all aspects, such that by the time we're giving them these gadgets, they are well competent enough to administer them to their learners. So that in case if a teacher is facing difficulties within this term course, you can be able to identify this teacher, and maybe if the teacher needs some level of assistance, you can be able to assist them. And remember, I told you I work as a coach, and part of my job as a coach in ID is to ensure that these teachers are comfortable.
Right.
Comfortable enough to administer these devices to their learners. If they're facing difficulties, if they're facing challenges, concerns, questions, whatever it is that they're undergoing, it's my role as a coach or our role as ID to ensure that they're very comfortable in terms of using these devices. So we give them support in all ways that we can. We go for field visits, we visit their schools, we give them support remotely by calls. We ensure that we're just constantly in communication with them, such that if they have any difficulties whatsoever, we can be able to help them out. That's how we ensure that these teachers are competent enough to handle our devices, and they're using them effectively based on whatever it is that we expect of them, and it's positively impacting the learners. Yes.
Very true. As we proceed with the show, remember ours is to make sure that we give you something that you are supposed also to put into consideration in terms of the made with the use of technology in the education sector. Talk about the education in our schools. Largely so, there is this team that talks about, that is called the EDU, that is working in making sure they do help our learners access education, just like other learners out there who are most privileged coming to the schools at which they study. Issues about having the access to resources and digital tools that are supposed to be used in terms of learning. We do like to hear from you. What do you have to say concerning the topic of discussion? What are some of your concerns and questions to my guest? one who has done matters to do with coaching when we are talking about education and technology. That is what we are discussing this morning. And talking about this thing as well, there has been quite some bit of concern about the various barriers and hindrances as far as making sure that this technology works effectively, and some of which talks about the access to this digital learning tools, which is quite a challenge in most of the areas that we are having. Talk about the schools that they are looking to work with, mainly those which come from the slum areas. But of course, Mwalimu was here and spoke about the issues, call about the government to try and help out, and different partners who are trying to learn trainers, which the schools which are supposed to at least work together with such entities in making sure they improve the quality of and the standards of education. So that is what we are discussing this morning. We want to understand how vividly can we use the technology to improve the quality of education, not forgetting the issues about the CBC curriculum here, removing and excluding the issues about conventional learning that my guest was talking about, and bringing on board new ideas that of course are in line with the modern day styles of education. That is our morning conversation this morning. But coming back to you, Bwana Michael.
Yes.
Looking at this whole aspect of what you do as Edu, somebody will say that you're doing great in terms of improving the quality of the education sector.
Yes.
But of course, in between that, there has to be barriers and hindrances and challenges that you guys are facing. Maybe you can paint a picture for us with some of these things that you're facing that of course maybe kind of pulling you back, so to speak.
I don't think there's any industry that you might not find any challenges. So the challenges are not unique to us, so we have to be cognizant of that. But just to answer your question, some of the challenges that you're facing is there are some institutions which find it difficult to adapt to the technology that you're offering.
Right.
Because technology, it's not something that everybody accepts easily. So that initial introduction to the technology comes about and creates some level of difficulty trying to adapt to it. So you might find some are so used to the conventional methods of teaching. They use blackboards, they use chalks, they use assessment papers and such like stuff. But when we introduce a smart device, you might find there's some rigidity to sticking to the old ways.
Right.
Because they might not see the benefits initially they might not see the benefits of using smart devices within their classroom settings. So it's a process that normally takes time. But once they realize the benefits that these devices have to their learners, then the adaptation becomes a bit easy. But the initial entry point becomes a bit, there's some level of rigidity here and there. And another thing is that we've noticed is we try to, you might find some teachers might not, how can I put this? They might not actually see the initial benefits because they consider it as something that might interfere with their teaching practices as they conduct their teaching exercises in class. But as I do, we ensure that when we offer our devices, it's not supposed to compete with the teacher. It's supposed to be supplementary. So if you're going about your teaching practices, it's not something that's supposed to interfere completely with whatever it is that you do. It's supposed to ensure that whatever it is that you teach is also in line with whatever it is that's offered within our devices. So some teachers might find it hard to take in the device within their classroom settings, but like I told you earlier, as our work is to ensure that they get comfortable and they understand the impact that the potential impact that this device has within their classroom settings. So we constantly try to motivate them, we constantly try to encourage them, we constantly try to give them attention as much as possible. And we're not only focused on the teachers, we also focus on the learners and any stakeholder within the education ministry who wants to see their learners progress and access this digital technology that we offer. Yes,
very true. Right, and I'm getting a point here that there is quite a need to have technology in our education system. And somebody will question, where were you? Why are you even coming now? You know, during our times we used to count bottle tops until 100.
Yes.
You see?
Yes.
Do you feel like there is need for us to have technology being embraced largely in our education sector?
There is a very huge need for us to do this. The primary reason is because just like the guest before me talked about, there's some limitation when it comes to the resources available for these public institutions, private institutions, urban institutions, whichever type of institutions that are there. There's some limit to the resources that they can access.
Right.
So these resources limits the content that the teachers or educational stakeholders offer to the learners. So once this is compromised, you might find that the motivation levels for the learners to learn in classroom settings is very diminished. You might find the costs are high because they don't have the resources to access some of these conventional methods of teaching. You might find that the motivation levels of the teachers and also the learners is very low. So we try to come in to seal these gaps that we realize. We want to offer something which is readily available. It's cheap because you're offering it for free, and it's something that they readily adapt to, and it's something that they can easily access, and it's something that improves their numeracy and literacy skills. So in the long run, you might find the competency levels of our learners is gradually improving, and that's what we want to positively impact in our society.
Right.
Yes.
Very true. Right. And looking at the side at the community now,
yes.
Our community that, of course, that you are working with largely said to be schools that fall under the category of the urban schools,
yeah.
And they are in the slum areas and what have you, and you know quite a bit of challenges up there, being the fact that they come from low-income areas.
Yes, yes.
Does that worry you in some kind of way? Maybe you can have to face a bit of challenges in terms of if may end up getting the device, the parent can as well as get to sell the device and buy food, you see?
Yeah, I understand. Those are concerns that we are facing, and those are concerns which we recognize. But at the same time, that does not deter us from providing whatever it is that we provide as IDO. We are very aware of those challenges, and in isolated cases here and there we face those challenges. But we try not to get demoralized, and we are trying to look at the bigger picture here, because what's our bigger picture and what's our mission? We try to ensure that these learners access quality education, and if we get demoralized based on the challenges that we face, I don't think we can be able to have the heart to progress. So we just try and overlook those challenges here and there, and try to stay strong so that we offer them the quality education that's going to propel them to the next level and ensure that they improve their literacy and numeracy skills in the long run. Yes.
Very true. Right. Oh, that's what we need to take our second break right here on the show. Remember, we are solidly discussing on how we can use technology in improving the quality and standard of education. That is what we are discussing this morning. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
As we proceed now, talking about the edu now, where do you see yourself going to? What do you look forward to in the coming number of days, months, and weeks, years? You see?
Yeah, that's a very good question. As I do, we already established ourselves in Lagos, in Nigeria. We already established ourselves here in Kenya, and to be specific, in Mombasa here, and also in Nairobi. But we're also looking to expand regionally in terms of covering other counties within Kenya, and also internationally we're looking at expanding our coverage to other countries which are in need of such packages that we offer, that is provision of quality education. So in the future we see ourselves covering the areas which need improvement in quality education. It's not respective of whichever region or whichever location, as long as they're in need of our IDO services, our IDO gadgets, and we have identified them as people who can need our services. We're just going to go there. So in the future, we see ourselves as covering all the areas, because we have a goal of ensuring that at least by the time we reach 2030, at least 600 million children at least should have access to quality education, and if we can be able to provide that as I do, that's our goal.
Very true.
Yes.
Right. You know, during the inception and the coming in of the calculators, there was that mentality. I don't know, it's a mentality or a notion that it's a kind of spoon feeding and spoiling the kids, you know.
Yeah.
Now, in the line of these gadgets that you're giving out and the issues about improving the numerical and literacy, skills of the kids. Don't you think that you are also spoon-feeding the kids here and spoiling them in a kind of way?
No, that's not the right way to look at it. That's not the right way. The way you should look at it is what gaps are we filling? I think if you look at it from that perspective, you look at it from a much better angle than that perspective, because remember, it's a gap that's already there. So it's not something that you're going to interfere with. It's something that you're going to fill in, and you're filling a need, which is the need to access quality education, and that's what you want to target as I do. And if you can do this by giving them these gadgets to provide that quality education, then well and good. And remember, I told you, whatever it is that you offer, our content as I do aligns with the KICD. So if it aligns with that, that means that the learning outcomes that are there in our gadgets are in line with whatever it is that the Ministry of Education expects the learners to achieve. So there's no spoon feeding whatsoever. So it's something that's complementary. It's something that they need in their schools. So that's what we do as I do.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Speaking of the schools themselves now,
yes.
We have these schools that are mostly that are found in slum areas,
yes.
may lack some kind of infrastructure. Yes. Talk about electricity,
yes.
and what have you. And these gadgets of yours that you're giving out, I do believe they need some kind of a power system,
yes,
so to speak. Does that even part of your consideration and factor that you are supposed to look into?
Yes, yes. Those are things that we look into, and those are things which we're very aware of. But what we try to do is we try to encourage the center directors or the leaders within these respective education institutions to try and enable their teachers and their learners to be able to use the devices. They can be able to do this by ensuring that the devices are charged, even if it's not within the school setting. It's charged somewhere at home, so that by the time they come to the school setting, the learners can be able to access a fully charged device, and they can be able to use the application smoothly. So by the time it runs out, maybe the lessons are, the course of the days is already done, and then they go back home. So the next day it's fully charged once again, and they can be able to access this. So we are aware of these challenges, and because you're working with schools from very humble background, we do realize this. But if there's a school which is lucky enough to have, for example, a charging place, that works best for us. But if it's not there, then we encourage them to carry the devices to the closest location where they can be able to charge it. Specifically, maybe at your home, when you can be able to charge your device, you can also charge your device as well, and then bring it to school the next day, and the learners can be able to use it.
Right.
Yes.
Of course. Now, let's talk a little bit about collaboration now. I do believe that AIDU also works with different entities. Talk about the ICT sector that, of course, look into issues about these apps and applications and softwares that, of course, you install inside these gadgets. Yes. How does that go about with the thing of collaboration with different stakeholders, specifically those who handle issues about softwares and apps?
Yeah, we have to collaborate with these ICT departments, irrespective of the level that they are in. We do this to ensure that whatever it is that you offer the learners, it's something that they can easily adapt to, and something that they can easily interact with. At the same time, we want to ensure that the content that you offer, it's safe for our learners. You know, there are so many, because it's internet based, there are so many they can get access to content which is not meant for them. But as I do, we partner with the ICT departments of different levels of the government to ensure that whatever it is that you're offering the learners is something that's safe for them to use, and it's something that they can be able to use in the long run. It's not something that's just going to be short term. So we also ensure that our content is whatever it is compliant with whatever it is that they expect the learners to interact with. So partnering with the different ICT departments ensures that we take note of their concerns, and we implement those concerns as we offer our IDU application to the learners who need them in the classroom settings. Yes.
Right. And in a bid that you are trying to improve the standards and quality of the education in our schools, there has been a lot of calls here and there, calling from the government, calling out the government to up in terms of the game, in making sure that these things materialize going forward. Do you feel also there is need not only to blame the government and also pull muscles together, different entities, different partners in trying to do whatever you're doing?
I understand your concern, but as I do, we try not to point fingers at all. We try to, yes, we've identified a gap, but we don't want to say we don't want to call out their origin. What we do is we just try to step in and provide whatever services that we can be able to provide, fill those gaps as much as possible. Because if we start pointing fingers, I don't think it will reach to an end. It never comes to an end, and I don't think that's something that we want to involve ourselves in, because our primary focus is, can we be able to fill that educational gap? Do we provide quality education? Yes. How can we enable the learners to access this quality education? We can provide them with the gadgets, we can provide them with the application, we can give them support remotely, we can give them support physically. As long as we are playing our part, that's what we want to do. We don't want to shift our focus to other things, because we lose focus of whatever it is that we have in mind. Yes.
Right. You've reminded me of a very primary question here.
Okay.
Somebody will be keen also to note whether if the quality of education goes hand in hand with digital learning and technology.
Yes.
Are they intertwined?
They must go hand in hand. They must go hand in hand, because if the content that you're offering is not in line with whatever the learners are supposed to achieve, then what are you doing in the classroom setting?
Right.
It beats the purpose of actually being there. So it has to go hand in hand. There's no one without the other.
And things have changed now.
Yeah, things have changed. We've seen some positive impacts here and there, and there's some level of adaptation which we really appreciate, and we'd like to thank our partners and the various stakeholders within the different departments within the education ministry. Yeah.
Largely so, what are you proud of you as Edu as of at the moment?
We are proud of of positively impacting the lives of the learners, and this is in levels of we've improved their literacy skills, we've improved their communication skills, we've also improved generally we've improved their competency levels from across the board.
Right.
And we can see positive feedback from the teachers, from the learners, from the parents, you name whichever stakeholders that you want to name. We can see there's a positive impact. And once we get this positive impact and positive reviews, it means that you're actually doing something positive to our society. And that's what you want to do. Remember, our learners are the future of tomorrow. And the future is technology based. So
right.
The future is technology is the future. You can't have one without the other. So if you can be able to provide them an avenue of accessing technology, because remember, some of these learners come from very humble backgrounds.
Right.
Some of them have never even seen a smartphone, but if they get to interact with a smartphone at this young level, you can imagine the progress that they're going to make as they progress across the education levels, as they move upwards.
Right.
So that's what you want to impact. Yes.
Very true. Somebody even will be keen to ask,
Yeah.
you know, we are talking so much here about education and technology, specifically the edu thing. Maybe may begin to ask, are you guys qualified to be in the country? Are you certified, or you are from River Road, somewhere there?
No, we are certified. I don't think there's any way you can operate in Kenya without the knowledge without the knowledge and the involvement of the various stakeholders within the education ministry.
Right.
It's a bit difficult. So with the involvement, it means that they've actually seen whatever it is that you offer. They agree with whatever it is that they offer, in terms of they see there's some level of competency that we want to develop, and there's some gap that you're filling within the education sector. So working with them has enabled us to even identify some areas we did not identify earlier, and contain these areas within the packages that you offer within our IDO app. So working with them ensures that you're not what to a River Road, as you call it. So we are very competent and we are very certified.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And has it ever caught you guys like this idea, you can sell it maybe to the Ministry of Education so that it can go ahead and implement it all around the country, or you feel it's solidly yours and yours alone?
No. It's we can't claim exclusivity here, because remember, we are working with all stakeholders. Now, the fact that you are working with them, we are one. We approach this issue as one body. We are not coming in as IDO alone. Remember, we've partnered with so many stakeholders within the education ministry, within the ICT departments here and there. We try to reel in as many people as possible, so that by the time we go to the learner, we're not coming in as IDO alone. We have an umbrella of so many people within our organizations here and there who get to support IDO and whatever IDO does. So we're not working alone. And I think that involvement means that it's not an exclusive thing to IDO. Yes, we try to reel in everyone as much as possible.
Right.
Yes.
Very true. Now I want you to look look straight into that camera, where can they find Edu and Water, maybe your offices are, headquarters are, so that if somebody who wishes to join you or partner with you can get to you so easily?
Yeah, you can find us from our website, which is www.eidu.com. That is eidu.com. And you can access us across all social media platforms, Eidu, and we can respond immediately. So you can find us there, www.eidu.com. Thank you.
So simply in Mombasa here, do you have any office or so?
At the moment, no, but you're planning to get an office. Because of the COVID situation, we put it at a halt, but you're planning to have one very soon. Yeah.
And speaking of COVID, did it disrupt your plans or what have you?
I don't think there's any sector which was not affected by COVID. Definitely we were affected by the COVID situation. But just like any other sector which has been affected by COVID, we tend to bounce back with much more vigor and desire to ensure that we positively impact the lives of the learners. So we've really tried our best to ensure that we try and cover as much ground as possible, considering the gap that was created there by the COVID situation and the lack of access to our devices that was created, considering that some schools were closed for a long duration of time, considering the COVID cases that were increasing in our country. But we've tried our best to cover those gaps here and there. But we were affected, I can assure you about that. Yes.
And we do believe that you will bounce back strongly.
Definitely.
Very true.
Yeah.
And maybe, can you even work with other private schools that, of course, maybe, looking at you, I understand like you working mainly with schools that, of course, are down here, talk about the Abbott schools. Can you also work with other schools that are well off in terms of the resource?
Why not? Why not? If there's a gap that needs to be filled, it's something that we can be able to do as I do think we can be able to work with them, we can be able to help out in any way that we can. I don't think it's about focusing on only the low-income background settings or anything like that. We just, as long as there's need, we can ensure that we offer that, we feel that need as I do. That's what we want to do. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for showing up.
Thank you for having me.
All right. I do believe from whatever part of the country you have watched us from, you now understand the need of having technology being embraced in our education sector. So much we've discussed here, talk about the need to have technology in itself, some of the barriers and hindrances that are facing the technology and the education sector, and how best can we work in making sure that we improve the qualities and standard of the education and of learning in our schools. How can you exactly get some of the learning tools that my guest was talking about here? He already said that if you have any comment, question, and maybe any plea, any inquiry concerning the Eidu and what they do, then you can get to share them on their social media platforms, largely so on their website as well. Remember, also you can share to us, and we relay them to, we'll relay your comments, questions, and inquiries to them as we get along. This is what we do every single morning right here on Boss TV. We do take time in discussing very vital and important issues that are for quite necessity to you, just in a bid to make you understand as we kickstart our day, because this is the only place where you kickstart your day in style. Good morning, boss. Every single Monday to Friday with me, Shadrack Ogega. I would like to thank you so much for making time for us. Thank you for you having sitting down and watching us. We don't take that for granted. We'd like to extend our sincere gratitude to you as well. Those who have had to share their comments, I'll be looking at them in our subsequent time, of course, though time is not on our side. Also, I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude and thanks to the entire crew, beginning with my cameraman, headed by Mr. Lubanga himself, Sami, together with Joseph Kwach and the other Joseph Kialo. We have two Josephs here, of course, and my producer, that is Mr. Michael Omondi. Thank you so much. Let's do this again tomorrow, same time, same place. It's always consistent right here on Boss TV. Goodbye.